Greetings everyone, this is Lodrik and this is the game War in the Pacific Advanced Edition in the match against Dojo. Today we will check turn number 47, means battle activity of the 9th and 10th of March 1942. The big highlight will be now the first attempt to storm the base of Port Moresby. So if I have a little luck, I maybe can the base already today or in this turn. But I would say latest in the next turn. So switching base in the Philippines. Unloading troops on some islands. So far nothing special. The ongoing attempt of Dojo's Dutch submarines trying to mess up my Singapore port supply line or outgoing task forces, but so far I think with no success or very limited success. On the other hand, my sub hunters, they damaged some submarines, but I don't know if it was really so successful. In this case we had no success at all, no damage reported. Now we intercept this cargo ship. Last turn already we detected this force, but it was not more able to intercept them. But this is my light cruiser formation. I always bunch up 2 main ships plus 4 or 6 destroyer for escort. And you can also see here already on the image of a ship how big a unit is. I don't know if you can see this on YouTube because you lose some details, but this destroyer I think is a standard Japanese destroyer with around 2,500 tons, and these are light First World War destroyers I think with 1,500 tons. But then you can also compare that this destroyer, these are the typical American interwar destroyers, or First World War interwar destroyers, also 1,500 tons, 1,800 tons. So they are often have a value of 6 points. And the Japanese, they also have some of these older destroyers, similar 5-6 points. But this 2,000, 2,500 and up to 3,500 ton destroyers, they have then much more value because they also have much more firepower. Of course the destroyer can normally not go 1-to-1 with a light cruiser, but especially there's the Japanese light cruisers, they are very weak. So the Japanese, they don't have this 10,000 ton light cruisers like the Allies, they produce them. So the Japanese, they have more like heavy destroyer with 5,000 tons. I don't know. I think this is a smaller one with 5,000 or 6,000 tons, and this is maybe a 7,000 ton light cruiser. And the Japanese light cruisers, they are mainly, I think, would say, they have really no good fighting value because they have this 14 centimeter guns, but in single mount. They are maybe okay for hunting these cargo ships and destroyers, they can go. But they don't have much torpedo layout. They only carry 1 scout plane, if even. I think this one has 1 scout plane, but this one has no scout plane. So this is a really handicap for the Japanese army. This whole light cruiser type, the Japanese skipped more or less. The Japanese go for heavy cruisers and for heavy destroyer, but they ignore more or less the light cruiser option. It works. It can. I mean, it's not that you must have this light cruiser stuff, but it normally the typical light cruiser is the best unit to kill enemy destroyers, because they are fast. They can avoid destroyer and torpedoes more easily, and they are also compared cheap. So even if they get a hit by enemy destroyer from a torpedo, unluckily, you will not lose too much point value. But anyway, I think this is now a one-sided battle, and we hit already the enemy destroyer, so there's not more much left. We get rid of this one, and then there's the destroyer go down. This is the most important, and the rest are only some light cargo ships with no damage on our side. So this was a slaughter, normally you would say, but not that it really have much impact. The biggest impact is maybe that the supply line from Darwin to Perth is interrupted, and Dojo maybe is scared to ship or to send out the next task force, or if he wants to send next units, then he will maybe or must increase his convoy strength. So not only one destroyer, maybe he will send 4 destroyers and some light cruisers or battleships. I don't know. Battleships are too expensive normally for convoy duty. We will see. We will see. Maybe in the future we can have a similar battle. And here we have now in this case, a surprise or luckily hit on the enemy destroyer. So the Clark get a hit from one of our submarines east of southeast of Wellington. And then there's at least one additional destroyer, but with no impact. So this was normally a sub hunter attack, and most of time the submarine captain he make only emergency attack with 2 the torpedoes. I think they do this mainly to force the destroyers to avoid the attack, and then the submarine can normally have more time to deep dive to make a deep diving deep tactic. But in this case, the commander choose to more or less he launch all torpedoes he have. This type of submarine. This has a big fleet submarines of the Japanese army, and they have 6 front tubes. So this captain was very aggressive, and they say try everything, and of course this consumes 6 torpedoes, and I think this submarine only transport 18 torpedoes for the front tubes. So I think one tube have 3 torpedoes, so there are not more many torpedoes left. But I don't know if I think it's still okay. Maybe if the submarine go on patrol, sink an enemy destroyer, and then must return to rearm, it's maybe not a big impact, but at least something. Anyway, we make a hit, and this will normally be enough to sink a destroyer, especially because we are so far away from any port. It's a matter of time that this destroyer will take on more and more water. And especially because they also have a fire on board. This will always normally hinder all repair. And then we get a sinking sound. So this is the Clark again. So the submarine more or less they observe the situation, and they realize that it looks like that's a game. I don't know, the game will make a decision. If a ship is heavily damaged, it's normally split the task force. And always say the damaged ship plus some support, escort, will build a new task force with reduced speed. And the original task force try to continue on the path with the standard speed. So, but if this task force had only 2 destroyers, then the game splits this up in looks like 2 task forces here. And this is now the reason why we have attack on the Clark without any counter. Yeah, with no sub-hunter counter attack. And we make 1 additional torpedo hit. So now we use only 2 torpedoes, this is the minimum. I think there is no attack with 1 torpedo. 2 torpedoes is the minimum attack. And there 1 ship go down. So we just had 2 sinking sounds. So 2 ships go down. This 1 destroyer will go down, but there's some other things sunk before. So who knows what. You will see what the intelligence report will tell us later. Now this is a hit but no explosion. This is a nice Mark 14 torpedo. America is so great. Yeah, America can do everything, but they cannot produce working torpedoes. Thank you, America. And because this is now the port of, this is Port Moresby Hex, so it's a port, and every port is shallow water. So it is always risky to bring a submarine in a port hex, because there is not much space to dive deep. So in this case, our normally shitty anti-submarine equipment was able to at least hit 6 times. And we are in Port Moresby. I mean, if the submarine gets really damaged, then of course it can maybe try to reach the port and dock here. But firstly, the port I think is heavily damaged. There's not really possible to repair anything. And if we take the base and the submarine is I think docked and damaged, it can also not more escape and gets destroyed. Naja. So far very at least successful. We sunk 2 destroyers. We damaged 1 additional submarine. We also damaged some cargo ships. But of course only light cargo ships. Not really. The point value or the impact on the industry is not really important here. I think this is more a morale victory for the Japanese Navy. Because so far we can say that the Japanese Navy never lost the battle. Yeah, maybe with this 1 battle with our 2 heavy cruisers we had to disengage. But only after we sunk 2 Allied task force groups with a lot of cargo and troop transport equipment. Only because we run out of ammunition we had to break off. So I would still say that the Japanese Navy was undefeated up to now in a real open battle. So bad weather. And no Chinese Air Force left. Nothing to kill him more. Okay, so these are the. I think Dojo already tried this once or twice before. to use his B-25 to attack my shipping around Singapore and Batavia. So I have also even a Zero Squadron, and also in Singapore, of course. And I have maybe now not. The problem is still that this is the beginning of March, 9th of March, and you just get the first radar sets in Japan. But you must transport this radar equipment from Japan to Singapore, and I think this needs 1 or 2 weeks at least. So maybe around 20th or 25th of March, I will start to install radar in my main bases like Singapore. Normally every port need at least a radar station. Singapore, Miri, Saigon, Rabaul, Truk, all these important bases, everywhere where you have a lot of shipping, and of course where you have an air base, you need the radar. It will always help your air defense to intercept the raids early on and have a better position to defend against this. In this case, we have, I think, simply not enough time. The B-25s are also fast, so the time of battle is short. But we kill one directly and damage one more. Maybe this damaged one cannot return to Palmbang. So, and Dojo only have 3 B-25s left. So, if we can kill out of the 2, that will be a blow. Then there's not more much left for him to use. At least in the short run. And in the long run means now up to the end of the month I won't take Palmbang, and then there's no base more left for him. So I must only survive this maybe 1 or 2 weeks more, and then there is no threat more, no air attack threat for the Singapore area. Bad weather. Okay, these are our land-based Navy bombers. Last turn I already sent my first carrier fleet back to Rabaul to rearm and reinforce and bring everything to ready status. And I think now I am already departure to direction Suva, roughly. To repeat this strike, I think already twice before. This will be now, I think, the 3rd carrier strike against east coast of Australia, Suva, that area. The only problem is with this carrier operations is that this carrier fleets, they consume a lot of fuel. You cannot do this non-stop, or you will, I think, have a problem with supply line of fuel. But now is still the best time, because I think up to May, the Allies, they don't have so much Air Force equipment ready to ship around. Okay, this is now a Dutch small, I think this is a short range Dutch submarine. And luckily for our destroyer minesweepers, no hit. But also we fail. We must take Palmbang and Luganville and Batavia. These 3 bases are really the last Dojo can use for his short range submarines. And if we take these 3 bases, I think also it's hard for him to bring any submarines near to Singapore if you have enough air force to scout around. Here again, Dojo's try to hit but fail, but unluckily no counter-strike. And again, but miss. And this time looks, yep. This is, I always skip this because 90% there will be no hit or 1 or 2 hits. In this case, we make 11 hits, and 11 hits is enough that the submarine is now in heavy damage mode. And normally, I would say a heavy damage is not more able to return. If it's lucky, yeah, but if normally he must go the shortest way, he can go here, but this is dangerous because it's in range of my air force. So I think he must go to Cooktown or something nearby. And this is if this is really heavy damage, maybe the sub can only make 1 hex per day. So this is a far distance. Means well, maybe 1 additional submarine of Dojo go down. So for some reason, in this game, maybe you can see it is luck. You can see it is knowledge or tactic or whatever it is. But the Allies submarine force is very weak and have high numbers of losses to count up. Compared to my Japanese army, I think I lost only 5 mini submarines so far, so early on. And here we take now the base with no real fight, it was empty. This is my second Mongolian army. Like I said before, this is now this always fight, 2 turns walk, fight, and again and again. And these armies have already no attack value more, so it's only a clean up operation, and there's nothing really more left. You can see this is my 11 guys, they only had a bad day, and Dojo's guys, they running away now. There's no hold more. So this is the first battle of Port Moresby. My 6 Navy Guard units against this Australian bunch of hillbillies. I don't know how you call them in Australia, but I do not even know if these are really professional Australian units or only something like military. If you can see this here. Well, not so sure. The numbers looks now in favor first of the Allies, but normally the numbers are only, it's for propaganda reasons you can call the numbers. If you are really a general, you don't care so much the numbers, you care more what is disabled and what is destroyed. Because at the end the game will only give you points for everything what is destroyed. So I mean the game, or I think the game works like more this. I lose now 17 points because 17 squadrons gets destroyed. But I'm not more sure if it's, I think only squads are full points, and I think non-military stuff like non-combat and engineering is only half points. Not more sure so much, but if we count it like 1 to 1, then I lost now 17 points, but Dojo lost here 10 plus 9, 19 points. And the rest is only disabled. And most critical is I drop, my attack value is roughly half, but Dojo is only a third. Additionally, where's the fort? Oh no, there's no fort. No, I mean, no, looks like there's no fort value. Okay, fort value 0. So this is also one of this last Dutch forces with sometimes can have, not must have, Air Force equipment, and we also take this base. And these are the Dutch forces. They have no way to, because we control the other hex, we block everything, so there was no option to retreat, and so they give up. Again, we have some losses, but at the end only 13 plus 11. But the 11 is only that normally only one gets destroyed, so only 14. And Dojo have here complete destroyed units, and I mean, I don't know, because every nation have also a different value factor, but I think maybe Dutch forces have half of the value of Japanese, or even 1 to 1. I think you must say the Chinese factor is 4 to 1. Means I must kill 4 Chinese to get the same point value like if I lose 1 Japanese unit. So because this is a simulation like that, the Chinese soldier is normally only a peasant with a weapon in the hand. There's no real training behind this, so they're cheap. And the Japanese soldier and American soldiers, they need at least 1.5 year or 1 year training, so they have more. They are more expensive. Okay, and this is now here a Philippine division. So also a proud member of the American fighting forces. And normally, but we have only our heroic fighting Japanese samurai navy guard guys with only light equipment. And this is simply this is the willpower. These Japanese soldiers simply have the will to fight, and they fight to the end, and they don't give up. And the Americans, if you can see, from 128, they're dropping to 22. So these guys have, they only want maybe sleep and drink and have sexy girls, or at least they don't want fight, because you can see the numbers. So Americans and Philippines, but I think it's more Americans than Philippines. I mean, the leaders are all Americans maybe, but the soldiers are Philippines mostly. But at the end, the soldier will only fight so good like he gets, the leadership is behind him. And if the leadership is not able to give the simple, ordinary soldier the fighting will, then the leadership fail, and not only the soldier. So this is only a pickup base. And this was only empty or really no fighting value Dutch base forces. So more or less Dojo give up everything here. There's only some base forces maybe left, maybe they're locked, they cannot walk. And he only concentrate all his defense power, I think mostly on Batavia. I think most is in Batavia, and also a lot is in Surabaya. This is now easy taking. But for me is Surabaya have much more value. Simply because it's a very short to the oil bases here in the east of Borneo, so you can bring all the fuel down easily to Surabaya. And here, most importantly, is a shipyard. And also you need normally here air base, because you must from Surabaya you can control all this air around, or the sea around. So if there's any submarines trying to sneak in to attack here the shipping in Batavia, it's more likely to intercept. Batavia is normally to block here the strait to keep Palembang safe, but normally also Singapore can do this, because normally everyone have here airbase in Singapore and you have an airbase in Palembang, then you must only make this route safe. So So you normally I would do this. I bring my fuel from Palm Bank to Singapore and my fuel from Miri to Singapore. And I use my fuel from Tarakan and from Balikpapan to feed Surabaya. And Surabaya is normally the main base to fight the West Australian area. In Singapore, normally supply and support everything in Indian Ocean. You don't need many. No, all the other bases are you only maintenance them, but there is not really necessary anything to do. Okay, one more pickup. This is now Dojo's heroic act of counter battery fire. So this is so brave. The Japanese storm the front and they're dying for the Emperor, and the Americans they only will make some bombardment attack. Yeah. Good. So this is an end. The end of the day was a successful day, I would say. We still don't take the base of Port Moresby, but it was also no failure. So maybe we have now the second day, and we damaged some submarines or sunk some submarines, and at least we damaged the submarines, but we destroy some enemy destroyers. But no blow for the enemy cargo lines. At the end, it's still normally important to have enemy cargo destroyed. Okay, this is now a rare situation. This is a Dutch submarine, so I think this is the best submarines Dojo have so far. And you make a hit on our cargo ship. Luckily, we can see we are now only 2 hexes from my port away. And I'm not sure. I think these are small torpedoes. I think only 18-inch torpedoes. The warhead is not so strong compared to the Japanese. They have, I think, much more explosion power. I think this is roughly only half the hit power of a Japanese torpedo. But I think the Japanese they also have 2 different submarine torpedoes. For this short range torpedo submarines, they have I think also this kind of small torpedo heads only. A torpedo hit is always bad for a ship. This I would say because of the flotation damage. But so for cargo ships, I think it's not so important if you have a big torpedo hit or a small torpedo hit. But for a warship, small torpedoes they don't really create too much flotation damage, and then you need many more hits. So the one ship just sunk again, an Allied ship, not a Japanese ship. So we had now 3 sinking sounds. Okay. A light cargo ship. Looks like more like a 2-point cargo ship. On fire. Heavy damage. And yeah, looks like one cargo ship go down. Dojo's scout planes still try to hit our ships, but with no real success. My Dojos had not really much to do. But I already lost half of them. I think I think one only in combat more or less, and the rest all by consumption over time. Lifetime was at the end. And we don't have, this has its oldest prototype unit, so you don't get any replacement. I can only hope that in June, July I can introduce this standard Dojo fighter for the Japanese army. To have something with a little more punching power. I have more punching power than the Oscar, but the main, I think, advantage is the speed. It's simply much faster. And I think also a big advantage of the Dojo is the climbing rate. So the Dojo is normally, I think, a very good interceptor, because the range of the fighter is not so the best. It's shorter than the Oscar, that for sure. But for if the enemy B-17s or medium bombers coming, I think this is the best for a Dojo. Intercept with high speed, try to reach the bombers and then damage them. Maybe not kill them, but at least damage them. And then maybe create more operational losses. Our support strikes in Medan. You can see how this is really successful. So we really lower this Dutch forces turn by turn more and more. And I bring my second Navy Guard units here. So then I have maybe one fresh Navy Guard unit and one more or less burnt out Navy Guard units. If this is enough to take this base, we will see. So, but I try to support this what I can with my Navy bombers. So the Navy bombers normally I keep them always on Navy attack. But because there is no enemy ships coming, my second task of the day for this Navy bombers is always make a land attack here. So, because Dojo only have submarines, and submarines are not count not for a Navy target. We are attacking here now the ground forces, and this is okay. Okay. So March 10 was not so much action, not compared to March 9's. Oh, so there was one of our cargo ship had some flotation damage. Oy, oy, oy. And our APDs, what? Yeah, troop transport destroyers. But normally it's a destroyer simply with some cargo slot. And the cargo slot is split in troop transport cargo and normal cargo. But I'm really not a fan for this. These are high speed. You can use them. I think there's also even a task force for high speed reinforcements or something like this. But this is always something like for emergency reasons. And I'm the player. I would always say if there's an emergency situation, then you already did something long time ago wrong. An emergency situation is always normally the is created out of wrong planning or the wrong strategy. Of course, I mean, emergency situation can always happen if the enemy is good or catch you on the wrong foot. But we simply don't like this kind of burning fuel and supplies for very low efficiency. So this is now the second battle of Port Moresby. You can see that my units are also burned out already. So if we don't take now the base, we maybe must rest for one day. So, Tokyo Rose, thank you for this lovely voice and brand new information. I think this shows again and proof that the Japanese army will simply win this war in a swift, fast campaign. Dojo is not able to create a stronghold so far. He can really hold for considerably long time. I mean, Singapore was maybe, I think we had 5 battles of Singapore, 5 days, 6, 7 days maximum with 1 day rest, I think. This was, I think, the longest battle we had so far. Clarkfield was also not much longer, I think 3-4 days only. This, of course, this was you can say, I invested a lot of time without attacking. Yeah, you can count this like the American or the Australian holds this base. But it was normally a race against time who bring more reinforcements to the base. And looks like I won this race because I bring additional forces and I can take the base and Dojo don't bring anything additional. So he give up already because his strategic situation was so desperate that he don't want to bring anything up. Because I control the sea, I control the air, and his B-17's bomber strikes, that was only for show, nothing more. Anyway, the Australians suffer here very, or at least high numbers of lost units, destroyed. And there's not much disabled. So we will see how much. I mean, there was original 10,000 guys. Now he lost at least 3,000, maybe before also 1,000 or 2,000. So maybe there are at least 5,000 Australian guys left, but they are mostly all broken. So they don't have really attack value, and they stay in the jungle without supplies. So not sure how Dojo will save his guys. Because I mean, I thought the Americans, they left no one behind. Of course, Dojo can now say the Australians, they don't count. I don't know if the Australians bring everyone back home or I don't know. This is something the Japanese not even must think about because the Japanese don't run home. They don't want to go home. They will stay where the Emperor sends them. They fight and die, and that is it. All. Japanese have honor. They don't run for money. They fight for honor. So there we get an additional destroyer after one of our very few replacements destroyers. So let's check the intelligence report. Say now we killed 2 enemy airplanes and 15 operational losses and 4 only for us. So the air war looks good, nothing crazy. Let's see. FK51. I think this is something Dutch, but I really don't know what this is. Maybe recon, I don't know, or light bombers. So this was a Mitchells, they're taking Singapore. So we had one directly kill and the other we damage. And then I think he's on the way back. So means this airplane not arrive at the, and he don't make a crash landing. And then I think it's operational losses. This airplane not even reach the home base. So it left the hex of Singapore damaged, and on the way back, I think every hex you must make this check, and then the check failed somewhere. And so this airplane is also lost. And this is, I think, more or less my typical. Also, he's also one more. Also, this is 25 and this is 26, yeah. Operational losses. One of our zeros, operational losses. So we lost 4, Dojo lost 17. Important is only for me normally the kill pilot. So we lost 1 pilot. Oh, okay. This is nothing. I mean, one pilot will die simply only by age. More or less. I mean, normally pilots are always under 35, so, but and ship sunk. Last turn, Japanese. Oh, nothing. Glorious Japanese Navy lost nothing again, and Allies lost a heavy cruiser. I think this was already last turn. I don't know. So for some reasons, intelligence report let us know that Dojo lost a heavy cruiser, and this is really a heavy cruiser with nearly 10,000 tons and 8-inch shell and guns. Also 1 light cruiser. Okay. Near 21-3. 21-3. Oh, this is Indian Ocean. So I'm not so sure about this. And 2 American submarines of this Gato class. This Gato class, I think, is a typical American Mark 14 standard submarine. They are normally good because they're fast, they have range, they have a lot of torpedo front. They have 6 in front and 4 in the rear, so 10 torpedo tubes. Each tube has 3 torpedoes, so a lot of fighting power. The problem is only this Mark 14 have this low chance to hit, and even if it hit, it have a high chance to not detonate. But we only see 1 destroyer sunk, so I thought we had 2, but okay. And this is a Dutch destroyer, 5 points. Yeah. And a small cargo ship, 2 points. This is not really important. But I think we also sunk 1 or 2 more cargo ships. So this is always fog of war. So this Navy stuff is always fog of war. If you don't really see the ship sunk in front of your own units, and that you really confirm the kill, like these 2 cruisers, who knows. Anyway, I would still say, I mean, if you say this is all true, then this is 40, 70, 80, 90, nearly 100 points killed ship ship units or tonnage. Okay. Most important is also, well, not most important, but interesting is also that now we are now clearly over 2-1. So we have now the major victory for sure if we can reach 1st January 1945 and keep this 2-1 gap, of course. So anything else? I don't know so much. We don't have here in China. In China was only this we destroy here, or we kick them back. Now There's still 3 units, but not always every time. After every battle there are less Chinese units and the Japanese units are more or less the same. So I will try to walk to the next base, have the next battle here. My main army is still walking up. So we try to reach with our main body Kongchang. But I think I will... I don't know more. Too many units. Yeah. I think I will use one of my tank forces to walk, or maybe, I don't know more. Oops. No. I better go to this next hex with all my forces, and if I reach this hex I can use 1 tank unit or maybe 2 tank units, something what is fast, to walk to this hex, because this is still much, I think it's faster. This is highway. 1 tank unit can always, I think, walk 1 hex per double turn on the highway for sure. And then we have here a standard street, because this is only a railway track. This is even half the speed like a normal road. I don't know if you... I don't know more the rules out of the head, but I think highway is more or less like 200% speed bonus. Normal road is like 100% speed bonus. And this railway track only gives, I think, a speed bonus of 50% or like this. So if we walk here directly, or if we go to the next hex and then source, it's... yeah, it's 1 more hex, but a better road connection. So maybe it's at the end the same, but who knows. This is at the end so small calculation stuff, I would say, then it doesn't matter now. But I won't normally take the base because there are at least some resources, and if I take this base, then for sure there can be no supply flow more. If I take the base, this is blocked. I mean, then maybe for supplies can normally still flow here, but we control this hex, so also blocked. I mean, if we control this hex, or latest we take this base, then everything is blocked here. So it's not really super important here. I bring here additional forces only to maintenance my position here, and blah blah blah, and block here enough. So I was not sure if Dojo maybe create here a new army and try... I mean, if I go here with all my force in the north, he normally can maybe come here with a force and try to take back these cities. I mean, not likely, because the Japanese are much better in defense compared... the Chinese are more weak in attack. So he must bring a lot of firepower here to kick me out of my bases. But this is always slow, nothing important here. But we catch up here, so we can maybe force this unit to battle next turn. Here's no real improvement. We also arrive in Moulmein, so, and here are still only 3 units, and I have here, I had this 2,500 fighting power, so I think this is no question that I take this. But no real big difference. You can see here I bring my additional Navy Guard units, maybe next turn or next turn. That's okay. We take this base, but there was no real value, so... yeah. The unloading is... unluckily we not unload completely. Maybe because the ship was not docked. If you dock, you can normally unload faster, but this is amphibious, so even we have already this unload bonus over for amphibious operation. So and anyway, we not finish the unloading of the sea company, so we must wait 1 more turn to finish the unloading. And first, if this is done, I can rebuild the 33rd division and start my warp on Palm Bay. So 1 more turn, and then we must still walk. And here's this, you can see this E means escort or emergency. It's switched to escort. but I don't know if escort is the proper name, because normally you have your emergency situation. This cargo ship get a torpedo hit. You can see the red numbers and orange numbers and even fire. It's a good cargo ship, 13 point value, but you can also see this is a 45 centimeter torpedo, so this is really the smallest torpedoes in the game, more or less. And small torpedo means normally also weak warhead, so that our ship can barely survive this. And I hope, because we are now only 1 hex away, so we arrive and then we will normally dock, and then we have here a port of 5, and this will help firefighting. And if the firefighting is over, then normally it's only a question of time to manage the repair. So I still have much hope that we survive, or we can keep this ship alive. So he is also still, some parts are unloading, some tank units. Yeah. And here is also more army equipment coming down. This is the 16th Army HQ. Here's already the 14th Army arrived already at the door or gate of Surabaya, and we're walking directly to Surabaya. So we are here on the highway, so we can maybe arrive already next turn in Surabaya. If I attack, or if I first bring additional reinforcements here, I will see. I must get some more additional scout information. I have so far nothing. I don't know how many. I had here some information. I think it was 20,000 guys, and I have 10,000 plus 20 support. So it will be a little tough, but we will see. We will see. Yeah. So after we take Menado, I have here now one. This unit is broken. This is really burned out. But we have more or less 2 Navy Guard units, and one third is completely burnt out. Yeah. So there's I mean, they are not all killed, but they are all burnt out. They need time, they need rest, and they need supplies. I mean, I feel supplies, I will keep them maybe for 2-3 turns here, rest them a little, and then I make a decision if I bring them directly to the next strike here and help here in the source, or if I bring them first to, maybe after I take Surabaya, that I let them rest completely and then pick this island chain, depending on the situation. Yeah, and I bring here some additional division, because this is a independent unit. They are directly under the control of the Southern Army. You can see this is the highest level. This is an army group. I mean, the army group only follow my orders. I mean, at the end, everything follow my orders, but in the chain of logistic and command, they are more or less independent units. They only have the headquarters of the Southern Army over. So this is normally units that can go everywhere on the map and fight and help everywhere, but the disadvantage is that they never really can get a command bonus. All other units, so I'm normally not always a fan of this. I would normally not unlock units from Japan and put them normally to this open system. I would normally always try to link them to units like this one, because this is a 3-star general, and then they're also related to the Southern Army, so all these units can also go everywhere. But these units get, if the commander is in range, you get this additional logistic bonus, support bonus, and attack value bonus. So that is why I would never really buy out a unit and give it directly to the Southern Army. But some units are already from start for Southern Army. And on the other hand, I would never buy this unit out and give it to an army commander only to get this HQ bonus. Before I do this, I would normally buy everything out of Japan, because I don't think that the Allies will ever attack Japan. That is too crazy. And there is also a lot of stuff in Japan you cannot buy out. even if you want, some stuff is simply really not possible to buy out, and this is already enough to stop any invasion for at least 1 or 2 weeks. So what else we have here? We take Port Moresby. 8,500 is the official information now here. Escaped but shattered. So they're staying in the swamp. They're staying here, and I don't know if there's a way for Dojo to bring them out. I take the base. Of course, this base is now completely destroyed, and it's only a burning village. And I must bring here in supplies, base forces, engineers to repair this all. And after this needs, I think, at least 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, to bring Port Moresby back online, install here something, and then I can maybe have here some scout planes, and then I have then it's really impossible normally to bring here anything up and down, only submarines. Any cargo ship, any task force will normally automatically detect it. And from Rabaul I can have my long range bombers. They have a range of later of 18, 15, something like this. So this is 17. So every task force is here, and around here Cooktown is 20. The Nell 3 edition have a range of 21. So if I detect here any ship, my bombers or from Rabaul will attack. So it's nearly really impossible to do that for Dojo. At least he can do it. And if he's lucky, he has bad weather, or on Rabaul is bad weather, and I cannot detect him. But if we count with this, the risk is very high that he gets detected, that my Navy bombers will go out. And these are high-skilled Japanese Navy bombers. They have very high, not all perfect, but very high torpedo attack values. So if there's no fighter stops them, they will launch normally their torpedoes. And flak is never enough normally to stop a torpedo attack. It will damage the airplanes, yeah, you will have losses, yeah. But normally, mostly the losses will happen on the way back to the base. The strike will still be done. And then it's the question, what is more important, to lose some pilots and some airplanes and sink the cargo ships or even warships? No. Anyway, here's the first carrier fleet is now here east of Tulagi. And I try to avoid here this area first, because maybe Dojo have already some equipment. And I really try to maybe go here south of Suva. I maybe try to be at the maximum range of his scout planes, maybe like here. And then I have maybe a surprise strike. Go near to Suva, try to destroy all this air force and sink all ships in Suva. Or I maybe go more east to Pago Pago and try to sink your supply line ships. We will see. And what else I can say is maybe the second carrier fleet are still under repair, I think. No. This is my APDs. Here's the carriers. I think the carriers are now finished. I had them last time all maintenance. So I must still reinforce the squadrons. I think I had not enough supplies last time or something, but it was wrong. You can normally only, if you need say 20,000 supplies to reinforce units. Or I also have a problem with my dive bombers. My industry output of dive bombers is normally not high enough to maintenance these losses. So, but it is always a long discussion how many output you want. My output of dive bombers is now at 34, and you can see I just upgraded it to 40. Maybe then I will go to 50, because I also increased my output of torpedo bombers now to a total of 40. So 40 torpedo bombers, 40 dive bombers. And maybe I go later to 50 to 50. But I don't want to go much higher. I must only normally maintenance my carrier fleet mainly, and all the rest is... I like normally to keep the numbers not too crazy high and try better to save my supplies and get the next level or the next generation of warplane. The D4 dive bombers and the B2 torpedo bombers. Or yeah, B2? I think it was no, B6 N2 torpedo bombers. And the D4 Y1 dive bombers. But I will get them first in end of 42, October maybe. And this maybe first at beginning of 43. So, yeah. Good, I think this is enough for today. See you all, take care, bye bye.